Hi, this is Free Thinking Through the Fourth Turning. My name is Sasha Stone. The Democrats deserve to lose. The left had everything and then lost it, trying to destroy Trump. The Democrats have been chasing the dragon for so long, even they don't know what they stand for anymore. Shaped by identity politics and social justice, Kamala Harris sure looks the part. But peel back even the surface layer and there's nothing. Just the failed dreams of a utopia gone wrong. No one says it better than Kenneth Kashigian at the Wall Street Journal. Quote, Ms. Harris was unprepared to enter the rough and tumble of national politics, and at the 11th hour relies on being propped up, as she has throughout her career, by patrons, Barack Obama, his operatives, and a national media that is predominantly desperate to prevent Mr. Trump from re-entering office. Ms. Harris is a victim of her own success through moving up the political ladder without being fully tested by challenge and conflict, end quote. Joe Biden wasn't supposed to defy the rules of the Ponzi scheme. He was supposed to do what every Democrat does, go along with the mounting deception. But even Joe Biden's win was a deception in and of itself. We were promised a moderate. What we got instead was a George Spahn who allowed a cult-like movement to move into the White House. They hid Joe Biden's age even then. I know because I stood just 5 feet away from him at a donor brunch in May of 2019. I was plucked from the internet as an influencer because I'd been such a passionate and devoted Democrat, a good liberal, who voted blue no matter who, ever since George W. Bush narrowly defeated Al Gore. I loved Joe Biden back in 2019. He was old, I knew, but he could do the job. How else to take out a one-term president with a strong economy, but to pull the country back to the last time they felt safe? Pulling the country back meant a return to the Obama era. Only later would I discover what a mistake that would turn out to be. Trump should have served a second term. He was cheated out of it, as were his supporters and all of America who would have likely voted for him just based on the economy alone. The Democrats could have taken the loss and rebuilt a new movement with new blood and a new direction. But the Democrats were never going to let that happen. They had to preserve the empire under Obama, an empire now in collapse. They've held on too long, and now there's nothing left. Joe Biden was already too old by November of 2020. They hid him in the basement so none of us could see how fast he was declining. I could see it because I could see where he was back in May of 2019. But instead of facing the problem head-on, the Democrats kept hiding Joe, lying to the public with their full-court propaganda press playing along. They elbowed out the brave truth-tellers like Dean Phillips and RFK Jr., and they handed Joe Biden the primary win, corrupt though it was, with their army of eager beaver lawyers meddling in our elections by removing Cornel West, Jill Stein, and anyone else who dared to challenge their authority from the ballot. They even tried to remove Trump, which forced the Supreme Court to smack them down. Then when Joe Biden's age was exposed at last, and there was nowhere to run to, baby, nowhere to hide, the Democrats instigated a coup. But Joe Biden wasn't going along with it, shockingly. It took Obama's yachting pal George Clooney to write an embarrassing op-ed in an attempt to push out old Joe, arguing that they should choose a candidate speed dating style. Well, they didn't do that, did they, George? They hand-picked Kamala Harris without a single vote, and you went along with it too, didn't you? You wiped your chin and did your duty as the good liberal you are. Well, welcome to the pages of history, for better or worse. I knew the Democrats were in trouble even before the 2020 election. I tried warning them. I said Trump would win if they couldn't find their way back to sanity. Oh, how naive I was. I didn't know back then how much power the left had amassed in the Trump era. An unprecedented alignment that reached from Hollywood, across Silicon Valley, to the universities and public schools, through corporations and the big pharma monopolies. Trump had the momentum heading into the race, 5 rallies a day, and a fresh new attack on the left for their woke madness that had led to mass firings, cancel culture, language mandates, and roving mobs of fanatics demanding people raise their fists to Black Lives Matter. Buildings were destroyed, cops injured, sent to the hospital and killed. And even a growing violent mob at the White House sent the first family into protective custody. That was a 1972-like disaster for the Democrats, or so I argued in a DM fight with Neera Tanden. But even I could not have imagined we would have a media that would cover it all up. Just pretend it never happened, like they're so comfortable doing now. Doug Emhoff had a jealous tirade and smacked a woman across the face so hard she turned around. That never happened. It never happened that the FBI, the IRS, big tech, and big media colluded with Team Biden to suppress the Hunter Biden laptop story, a clear violation of the First Amendment. So what, they say, we have to stop Trump no matter the cost. Here is a video with a breaking story from Catherine Herridge.
When you received this email from your IRS supervisor after Hunter Biden's guilty plea, thank you for your commitment to the mission, which culminated in a great conviction.
Those are words that are not supported by the actions of the agency.
What you're saying is that within the IRS, there is disparate treatment of American taxpayers.
What they call is sensitive investigations.
But sensitive investigation sounds like code for powerful elite people.
There's a list in the Internal Revenue Manual that says what a sensitive person is, and it's exactly that.
There was no question in your mind the big guy was Joe Biden.
We corroborated that the big guy was Joe Biden, yes.
We knew that the laptop was real. DOJ knew that the laptop was real.
FBI knew the laptop was real.
There were a lot of overt investigative steps that we were not allowed to take because we had an upcoming election. When
we were doing the interviews, the prosecutors specifically told us that they didn't want to ask about the big guy because they knew it was Joe Biden.
You came forward as whistleblowers. Your information was accurate, yet you're sitting here today with us alleging that you've been punished every step of the way by the government bureaucracy.
IRS has a smothering blanket on me, hoping that I quit, that they find some way to terminate me or commit suicide or something.
And I'm up against a machine that has millions of dollars, that has the ability to fight me.
People have to have confidence justice is going to be administered fairly, regardless of who you are.
Nothing ever matters now because it doesn't make the news, because the news isn't the news anymore. They work purely for the state. I believe Trump would have won if it had been a normal election in 2020, where candidates have to earn the people's votes. After all, he still won Florida, Ohio, and Iowa. But it would make no difference. They rigged the system in their favor, and now they were unstoppable. These weren't blue-collar crimes. This wasn't penny ante fraud. These were white-collar crimes. They were legal and in the plain light of day. If you have enough money and lawyers, you can get away with anything. But the Democrats had a problem. They were still chasing the dragon, putting everything they had, everything they built into destroying Trump. Just give us our utopia back. But America always wants to move forward, and the Obama coalition won't let go. They keep dragging us back to the past. We didn't learn the lesson of 2016. We didn't learn the lesson of Bernie Sanders. We didn't learn the lesson of the coronation of Hillary Clinton. No. We blamed our voters. We blamed the system. It didn't matter how crazy the left became in the summer of 2020, because they convinced the media that they'd been responsible for Hillary's loss, so they better play ball, or they will be blamed again for helping Trump win. And look at them now. Look at what they've become. They've lost all credibility and are hemorrhaging viewers and public trust. Hugh Hewitt made that point in this shocking video.
Is it me, or does it seem like this week Donald Trump is laying the groundwork for contesting the election by complaining that cheating was taking place in Pennsylvania by suing Bucks County for alleged irregularities. And this is on top of his continual assertion that if he loses, it's because of cheating.
Yeah, he's been laying the groundwork for this, just not in the last week, but in the last umpty-ump months. No election can be fair in Donald Trump's mind, unless Donald Trump wins it. And I think we are going to see him both rev up his supporters to contest elections outside of courtrooms and go to every courtroom he can in America where it's relevant to make whatever arguments he can, no matter how far-fetched. We saw
Jonathan,
that
I've
work
got
out last time, but it didn't work out this time.
Finish, Hugh.
It may not work. That may not happen this time. And now I'll let you go, Hugh.
Well, I've just got to say, we're news people, even though we're at the opinion section. It's got to be reported. Bucks County was reversed by the court and instructed to open up extra days because they violated the law and told people to go home. So that lawsuit was brought by the Republican National Committee, and it was successful. The Supreme Court ruled that Glenn Youngkin was successful. We are news people, even though we have opinions, and we have to report the whole story if we bring up part of the story. So yes, he's upset about Bucks County, but he was right, and he won in court. That's the story.
I'll let you keep going, Jonathan.
No, I don't appreciate being lectured about reporting when, Hugh, many times you come here saying lots of things that aren't.
I won't
based
come
in
back,
fact.
Jonathan. I'm done.
But
I'm done. This is the most unfair election ad I have ever been a part of. You guys are working. That's fine. I'm done.
So, Ruth, you wrote a column this week.
In the last days of the election, the New York Times and the Washington Post tried in vain to have YouTube demonetize or censor so-called disinformation. YouTube refused, to their credit. Tucker Carlson told them exactly where to go. For podcast listeners, a picture of a chat thread with Tucker Carlson where he writes, "So the New York Times is working with a left-wing hate group to silence critics of the Democratic Party. Please ask yourself why you're participating in it. This is why you got into journalism? It's shameful. I hope you're filled with guilt and self-loathing for sending me a text like this. Please quote me." And then he writes, "Would I like to participate in your attempt to censor me? No thanks, but I do hope you'll quote what I wrote above. And also a note that I told you to F off, which I am now doing. Thanks." Say their names. The public woke up to the deception in August of 2021. 13 American soldiers died due to Biden's incompetence. And thanks to the Supreme Court's decision on presidential immunity, there isn't much the families can do now to hold him accountable. But it shouldn't have gotten so bad that they had to beg the President of the United States just to say their names.
All Americans deserve the freedom to be safe. And America is safer today than when I took office. Year before I took office, murder rates went up 30%. 30% they went up. The biggest increase in history. It was then.
It's the guts and it's the glory. 100 stripes, 100 stories.
I'm gonna keep making noise on here so it blows up one way or another. Say their names, Joe Biden. Say their fucking names. Come on, left wings. Come on, Hollywood. Say their names. Where you at now? Huh? Huh? Say their fucking names. All of you.
When Hunter and the other service members' bodies were returned to the U.S. in Dover, Delaware, Joe Biden met the plane. But he made the occasion more about his son, lost to cancer, than our sons and daughters, lost on his watch. Worse than that, he has never said their names out loud. And during last month's debate, he claimed no service members have died during his administration. None. That hurt us all deeply. So Alicia and I are here to say the names of all 13 service members who lost their lives all 13 service members who lost their lives at Abbey Gate. David Espinoza. Nicole G. Taylor Hoover. Ryan C. Knaus. Riley McCollum. Dylan Marola. Kareem Nakui. Dagan Page. Johanny Pichardo. Humberto Sanchez. Jared Schmitz. Maxton Soviak. And my son, Hunter Lopez.
To cover up his own failures, Biden pivoted to Trump and his supporters, calling them extremists and ultra-fascists, once again blaming his own citizens for his failures, just as Hillary Clinton had done in 2016. They told half the country that representation for them didn't matter, because in the minds of the left they were aggrieved white males, so who cares what they think? The more Biden failed on the job, and Harris too, fumbling the border crisis, embarrassing herself whenever she got in front of a camera, the more they had to sell fear and hunt down Trump like an animal. There were no limits. It wasn't enough that they'd impeached him 2 years into his first term, spied on his campaign before he was elected, and attempted to frame him and smear him as a Russian asset. Now there were career-hungry prosecutors ready for their close-up. Let's get Trump. Because if we get Trump, then we never have to answer for any of it. For a wrecked country, for a cult-like fanatical movement that has overtaken nearly every institution of culture and power, for our failures to address the needs of the majority while focusing only on the marginalized, Hollywood destroyed, book publishing destroyed, journalism destroyed, all culture serving the state, fascist-like, building an empire on its way to total collapse. Indictments, convictions, and lawfare took the place of governance and policy. But as long as it pleased Rob Reiner and Barbra Streisand, then why should they care? No one was ever going to call them out on it, not in the media, that's for sure. Jake Tapper never said a word. They just kept chasing the dragon. For the victims of the toxic spill in East Palestine, Ohio, George Clooney and Mark Ruffalo said nothing. For the desperation in the wake of Hurricane Helene, there were no telethons with Kanye West. Sean Penn never showed up in a canoe to help rescue people. What do they matter? There are no virtue signals to be had. That won't play on Instagram. We're not going back. Now, as we head toward the November election, women are supposedly going to hand the victory to Harris. The Democrats have, in reality, betrayed women. They've betrayed the feminist movement they once cared about. How else do you explain it being left up to the Supreme Court to undo the Biden administration's rewrite of Title IX? This is a party that pretends to care about reproductive rights and is actively standing by as those rights are taken from children who can't consent. This is a party who supposedly stands up for a woman's right to make choices for her own body but can't even define what a woman is. This is a party that has decided that the only thing that matters is what wealthy, lonely, frustrated white women care about. I know because I am one of those women, or else I used to be. I'm a college-educated single woman who had abortions because I believed the feminists were right, that I had to serve my own happiness, chase my bliss, and make something of myself, only to wake up in 2020 and be sidelined by a fanatical movement that calls mothers birthing people. Harris has no choice but to appeal to these women, because what else do they have? What about me, they cry. What about my needs? Kamala Harris doesn't represent black voters in America. She represents the white women who have nothing left but to keep pretending they're making history. This is a movement that prioritizes the inner pain of child molesters, rapists, and even murderers, as long as they genuflect to the cult by deciding once they're sentenced to life in prison or deportation that, hold on, they're not really a man, but are a woman. Oh, in that case, all is forgiven. This is a party that has decided never to say one word about biological men playing against biological women in sports, but by all means keep saying you care about a woman's right to choose. A woman's right to choose what? An abortion? How about physical safety? How about the right to play fairly in sports? How about honoring a history that has made women protective of their naked bodies in locker rooms with good reason? This is a party that has silenced any bad news that might hurt their cause, like the convicted sex offender who invaded a woman-only spa with naked girls and women with an obvious visible erection. Do those women and girls have a right to choose? No. And not one of the so-called feminists gives a damn. Not Barbara Streisand, not Hillary Clinton, not Kirsten Gillibrand, not Gloria Steinem, not Oprah Winfrey, not Julia effing Roberts. So forgive me if I don't believe that you care about women. You don't. You care about power. You just want America all to yourselves again. So all of the human garbage you discarded and abandoned long ago, I know because I did it too, would crawl back into the dark and leave all of you alone to tinker endlessly with your utopian diorama. And if Harris wins, everyone knows it will be because of these women. Women like I used to be. Women who still gather on Facebook and obsess on the latest thing Trump said. Women who have nothing left but a living symbol of virtue. Please just make us matter somehow, some way. It doesn't matter if Harris can't do the job. The only thing that matters is how she looks doing the job. Or more to the point, how it makes all those abandoned and discarded white women look. Hope and change. Nobody handed the presidency to Barack Obama. He earned it by being a once-in-a-generation talent who made people like me believe in a movement we thought was changing the world. But every candidate they selected to follow in his footsteps didn't really earn their place. They rode on his coattails, or were too powerful in the Democratic Party to be challenged, and somewhere along the way the American people were no longer a priority. It was all about them, all about utopia. The only thing standing in their way is Donald Trump. The problem for them is that they can't stop the empire's collapse. There's almost nothing left now. Even Jeff Bezos can read the writing on the wall. The Democrats have done to democracy what that message we all used to have on our coffee cups and t-shirts that said, if you love something, set it free. If it comes back, it's yours. If not, it was never meant to be. All the Democrats had to do was offer the people something better, or step aside and allow the country to continue growing as it so badly and clearly wants to do. But instead, they could not stop purging utopia of its biggest threat. After all that, Trump is more popular than ever. He's built a stronger coalition, and they have a strong bench. They're not going away anytime soon. The rallies and Trump's speeches aren't going away, and the challenge to their deception and their delusion is not going away. It's over. They might drag Harris over the finish line one last time, but God help them if they do. The problem with chasing the dragon is that sooner or later, the dragon turns around and notices, and that's when the real trouble starts. But if the Democrats lose, which I hope they do, so big they feel it for decades to come, they will have no one to blame but themselves. Thanks for listening to my podcast, sashastone.substack.com. I hope you have a great weekend, and more importantly, I hope we all survive Tuesday. Remember, to thine own self, be true.